Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
Last week, the governor gave the green light to high school football. Tonight, she issues a clarification. Athletes must wear masks during both practice and games.
On the eve of his visit to Michigan, President Trump slamming former Governor Rick Snyder for breaking party lines and endorsing his opponent, Joe Biden.
And another freeway shooting, this one leaving one man seriously injured. We're glad you're with us for Local 4 News at 11. This shooting happened on I-94 near Harper Woods. It ended in a nearby neighborhood.
State police are still piecing this one together, but it continues a disturbing trend around Metro Detroit this summer. Jason Colthorpe is live in Harper Woods. Jason, this had the westbound lanes of I-94 closed for several hours.
It did, Kim, and it has since reopened, but a disturbing trend is an exact correct way to put this, because from June 15th to July 29th, state police reported 15 incidents of felonious assault or non-fatal or fatal shootings on Metro Detroit freeways. 15 incidents in just a month and a half. And since then, 5 more freeway shootings, including the one today that spilled over into this neighborhood. Emergency calls came in just after 3 o'clock, reporting a shooting on westbound I-94 near 8 Mile with a red car fleeing the area.
Then I heard a car flying down the street and spent out on the corner at the stop sign.
A short while later, this red Pontiac G6 came to rest at the intersection of Roscommon and Peerless in Harper Woods. It was riddled with bullet holes.
Unknown male ran down Peerless Street with a gun in his hand, then returned to the car with a gun in his hand. So I got back in the house and took cover.
I looked and I saw the smoke from the tires.
Larry Duran noticed the commotion as police arrived.
I saw the police come up and he drew his gun, and then I was on the porch at this time and I heard on his radio saying a gunshot to the head. So I'm like, oh, somebody must have got shot.
At first, witnesses didn't notice the second man in the car.
As they approached the car, they got the one driver out. And I still didn't know nobody else was in the car until I saw the cops looking around, and then they opened the door and I could see a body looked like slumped over it.
It looked like he was shot in the head.
Police arrested the man with the gun and the other was taken to the hospital. Back on I-94, troopers closed the freeway and recovered 2 different caliber shell casings. No motive yet, but whatever it is, neighbors just hope it's an isolated incident.
Very scary at the midday time. Yes, very scary.
Latest word on that man who was shot. His condition is serious, we're told by state police. Also, they are still trying to figure out a motive here, if it was simple road rage that just got way out of hand, or if the 2 men in this red G6 knew the people who were in that other vehicle. Kimberly?
Any description on the vehicle at all, Jason?
They don't have one yet, and state police hoping somebody's watching this tonight and it might jog their memory. 3 o'clock today, westbound I-94 somewhere in the 8 Mile area. If you saw something going on with a red G6 and maybe another vehicle, give them a call. Maybe it'll help them try and find out who else was involved in this.
Yeah,
Kim.
indeed. Okay, Jason, thank you.
Governor Whitmer clarifying tonight that all Michigan high school athletes in football, volleyball, and soccer must wear face coverings.
The governor signed an executive order last week allowing fall sports. Tonight, her office says that order mandates masks be worn at all times during training, practice, and even during the games. The mandate does not impact swimming and other sports such as golf and tennis, where athletes can maintain 6 feet of social distancing. Governor Whitmer is set to hold her next briefing on the state's coronavirus response tomorrow at 10 a.m. And new tonight, exclusive poll numbers show voters largely agree with how Governor Whitmer is handling the pandemic.
Voters also giving the governor good marks for job performance. Mara McDonald live downtown with a closer look at our poll numbers. And Mara, her numbers are up significantly since January.
They sure are, Devin. I mean, I think the best you could say about her poll numbers in January, where they were sort of middling. COVID has changed all of that. Let's take a look.
The governor's job performance is just a shade under 60%.
We're leading, and we're making a big difference. We've saved thousands of lives. Our economy is re-engaged. We've got some of the best numbers in the country, and we want to stay that way.
And when voters were asked about her handling of the pandemic, they bump it up to over 60%.
In a crisis, voters tend to rally around their leaders. They haven't done so at the presidential level. They have at the gubernatorial level. Question is, can Gretchen Whitmer hang on to those numbers as we move past the COVID pandemic?
As Supa points out, most Michigan governors have a defining issue of their terms. It certainly looks like COVID will be Whitmer's in her first term. But compare this with her predecessor, Rick Snyder, who also got high marks for his handling of Detroit's bankruptcy crisis. Snyder's approval ratings, especially among independents, were high because of it and propelled him to a second term, only to have the Flint water crisis explode on his watch, a crisis that I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who thinks his administration handled it deftly. Voters expect their governors to keep their eye on the ball.
Yes, she has handled this well, and voters believe she's handled it well, but what comes next is just as important.
Back here live, we have shared a whole lot of data with you over the last 24 hours as far as polling goes, both on air and online. And just one simple thing to remember about all of this: a poll is simply a snapshot in time. We're live downtown tonight. I'm Mara McDonald. Back to you.
All right, Mara. Former Macomb County Prosecutor Eric Smith facing new felony charges tonight. Federal prosecutors say Smith will plead guilty to obstruction of justice in their ongoing corruption investigation. The feds have been taking a closer look at how he was spending campaign donations, and they say Smith told 2 assistant prosecutors to lie to a federal grand jury and to the FBI about the use of his campaign money.
Prosecutor Smith knowingly and willfully obstructed an ongoing federal investigation.
Smith admits to taking $75,000 for personal use. He could spend up to 21 months in prison.
Tonight, we're learning more about the Wayne County inmate accused of killing a corporal inside the county jail. 28-year-old DeAndre Williams was arraigned today on charges of first-degree murder in the death of Bryant Searcy. Prosecutors say he jumped out of his cell and attacked him, putting him in a chokehold for 20 to 30 minutes in an attempt to escape. Searcy later died from his injuries. Williams was doing time for an armed robbery in February. He's due back in court later this month.
Vice President Joe Biden back in Delaware tonight, but spent most of the day here in Metro Detroit. The Democratic nominee for president kicked off his visit by making a campaign stop in Warren, attacking President Trump after new audio recordings were released revealing the president admitted back in February that he knew how deadly COVID-19 was, even though he went on to downplay the threat to the American public.
For months, he had the information. He knew how dangerous it was. And while this deadly disease ripped through our nation, he failed to do his job on purpose. It was a life and death betrayal of the American people.
The new audio recordings were from a series of taped interviews the president did earlier this year with journalist and author Bob Woodward for his new book. Here's what the president had to say this afternoon when asked about those comments from February.
I think if you said in order to reduce panic, perhaps that's so. The fact is, I'm a cheerleader for this country. I love our country. And I don't want people to be frightened. I don't want to create panic, as you say. And certainly I'm not going to drive this country or the world into a frenzy. We want to show confidence. We want to show strength. We want to show strength as a nation. And that's what I've done.
Also tonight, President Trump slamming former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder on social media for his endorsement of Joe Biden, calling Snyder the failed former governor of Michigan responsible for the Flint water disaster. President Trump, by the way, set to visit mid-Michigan tomorrow, speaking at an event near Saginaw at 7 p.m. We'll, of course, be there. We'll have live coverage of his visit beginning on Local 4 News at 5. The beloved Detroit Institute of Bagels in Corktown is closing after spending 7 years on Michigan Avenue.
2 months ago, into their reopening from the pandemic shutdown, a power outage fried their walk-in fridge, forcing them to close again. Well, since then, the owner has placed the building and all the equipment up for sale. He says he's looking for someone to buy the business and continue it as is. So, still ahead, a group of parents pushing for a shorter virtual school day.
Yeah, how many hours they want cut and the massive support that they're getting. Here's Ben.
Devin and Kim, if you have misplaced your sunglasses, don't bother looking for them.
Oh,
We've got some more clouds that are going to hang around, and we'll talk about when we finally see the sun coming up.
If you live around Selfridge Air National Guard Base, you better buckle in. This weekend's going to get pretty busy.
There will be more air traffic over the next few days.
We'll tell you what has all these fighter jets coming into town and why you might start hearing gunfire and explosions. I'll explain coming up.